Thank you all for coming, obviously, this Saturday morning to the Life of a Wisconsin Filmmaker panel at the 2016 Wisconsin Film Festival. This panel is put on by Story First Media and Film Wisconsin. I'm Michael Nielsen. I'm with Story First Media, and we're a collective of filmmakers and marketers that produce content for brands and entertainment. See, I'll run down the list here. So first here on my right, Eric Nelson, Director of Forest Products, correct? Yes?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. And you already had your screening, right?
Yes, opening night.
Opening night.
On Thursday night. Really well, because I got to piggyback on a great film, so it was a big responsive audience, and it was a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Animated short, so yeah, well, that's awesome. Next to him, James Runde. He's the director of the short White and Lazy, short comedy. And his screening's on Sunday, so tomorrow, 11 a.m., yes? Fantastic, and that's at the Madison Museum of Contemporary Art?
That's correct.
That is correct. Excellent. It's a hoity-toity film, it sounds like.
Yeah, it is.
And then to his side there, Emir Cakaroz. He's the director of REVZA. It is a short documentary, and that is playing Sunday at 4 p.m. also at the Madison Museum of Contemporary Art. And then finally, we have Rebecca Weaver and Chris Irwin. Rebecca is the writer, director, actor, editor, etc., etc. Chris Irwin's the camera, sound, producer, etc., etc., etc. of June Falling Down, which is tonight at 7 p.m. at the Union South Marquee. Yes.
And actually tomorrow night, too.
And tomorrow.
Yeah,
tomorrow night
we got
as well.
another one, yeah.
So if you can't make it tonight, you know where you got to go then. Fantastic. So today, this panel is kind of devised as trying to bring the idea of what people may think of as the life of a filmmaker into the life of a Wisconsin filmmaker. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to live in Wisconsin. I know a couple people here don't live in Wisconsin now, which is fine because I didn't live in Wisconsin for a while either. But everyone here made their films in Wisconsin, as far as I'm understanding it, in some fashion, yes? To one extent or another. So some connection to film production in Wisconsin, and kind of what does that mean exactly? How is that different from producing elsewhere, for example? So I guess we can start, since I went down there, we can start over there as well. Would you guys maybe just give us a once-over kind of on why did you choose to make your film in Wisconsin? And I guess, how did that work out, if you know?
Well, Wisconsin is actually kind of a big part of our movie. We filmed in Door County 2 years ago, and I basically wrote it to be shot in Door County. I actually wrote in the different locations, different restaurants that I wanted to shoot in. We actually were able to shoot at most of the ones that I was dreaming up when I wrote it. When I wrote it, I was, it's a story of a young woman who is living in California, and she moves back. She doesn't move back to Wisconsin. She goes back to Wisconsin for her best friend's wedding. She might be in love with her best friend. Her father passed away 1 year prior. When I wrote it, I dreamed of it being in my family's house, and that's actually where we shot it. So, yeah. It
sounds like it had to be shot
kind
here.
of had to be in Wisconsin.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And Emir, I know you have connections with the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee?
Yes.
Yes. So maybe give me your once-over of your connection, why you shot in Wisconsin.
Well, I didn't shot in Wisconsin,
okay.
actually. Yeah, I edited in Wisconsin. I'm from Turkey, and I filmed my film in Turkey. It was a personal piece about my mom and my family. So I shot in last summer.
Excellent.
Yeah. And actually, they are watching me right now from YouTube.
Hey!
Merhaba abi, anne.
And yes, please, James, give me your kind of why you produced here. Yeah.
Well, I was a student at the University of Wisconsin in the Comm Arts department, and so the film I made was sort of like my senior project, I guess.
Sure.
So I guess I didn't fathom shooting it anywhere else. It was kind of a Madison story through and through, I guess.
Fantastic. So. Yeah. Excellent. And then finally, Eric. I mean, did you produce? I don't know if you animated the film in Wisconsin or not.
Yeah, actually, this one was all animated on location, so it wasn't like in a studio or my basement, which is usually where I end up doing it. But it was actually on various locations all over the state, so from the top to the bottom. So it had to be in Wisconsin because that just happened to be where I ended up at any given time, either on vacation or traveling for work or any time I had a little bit of spare time.
Fantastic. So I have a couple more questions, and then I'll also open it up to you guys if you have questions of your own as well. So definitely think of those. But starting down here, then, when you know you're going to be producing here in the state or in any way, shape, or form independently, what does that mean from a production standpoint when you're first jumping off? Obviously, a lot's determined by the subject matter and by the content you're producing.
Yeah, I guess I live here, and I've also been a lifelong resident, and so I actually work in the production industry. So I've got a lot of contacts either for like gear or crew. So a lot of my resources are here, and that makes it a little bit easier for me in that respect. But a lot of stuff that I do on the side is just myself anyway. So it's more a matter actually of like convenience. But it's not to say that I don't like treasure what we have here in Wisconsin too. But I do have a family, and so I certainly have some constraints when I'm not working elsewhere. So when I've got a little bit of free time, it just happens to be I can use that to produce locally.
Sure.
And so it's a lot to offer here, but it's a matter of convenience also. And I think with a lot of the tools and I think I already mentioned resources that are available here. There's not much that you really wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
At least from my perspective.
Yeah. Well, that's something that's kind of a question sometimes, and so it sounds like a lot of the resources you have just because you work in the production industry here as well, and it's kind of readily available.
That's a bit of a head start. Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. James, talk to me about kind of the practicalities. You decided you're going to shoot this. You're going to do it in Madison. What does it actually mean you got to do now?
Yeah. So my film was sort of easy because basically the cast and crew were all my friends and me. From the production department at Madison, so it was kind of like a built-in crew and cast that I had, and they were all very talented, I thought. So I roped them into my project, and then so mine was kind of an anomaly because it was made as like a student film for sort of a class, but I could foresee in the future following similar lines to Eric, where if I have resources not through the industry like he does, but through the campus and friends and connections I've made in Madison, and when you don't have a ton of money to fund your projects, you kind of got to draw on like sort of the more down-to-earth elements of filmmaking, which is like the people that you really cherish, and then sort of the stories you want to tell, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And Emir, so tell me a little bit about the production of your film and like what the practicalities were that were involved there for you in terms of actually getting it done.
In Wisconsin,
sure.
You mean? So I work at UW Milwaukee Film Department. So I check out equipment from there, and I went to Turkey, and I film it, and I came back, and I edit it here. So I don't know if I think I don't have a very interesting story for this question.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So Wisconsin cameras went and filmed
Turkey, yes, and then film there. And then bring it back to footage, and I edit it here.
That's interesting. So did that process lend anything in the sense that you're cutting this footage here in Wisconsin a great distance back from where you filmed it? Did that lend any different perspective in the editing that you wouldn't have had otherwise, or?
Well, maybe. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
That's cool. Excellent. So, and then with Rebecca and Chris, give us a little bit of your current situation. You guys are living in Los Angeles now, but from Wisconsin, though, yes?
Yeah, I'm from Wisconsin. I'm from Neenah.
Okay.
I'm from Tennessee.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
There's no explanation why.
It was produced exactly.
You're just here.
But you guys decided you're going to shoot this thing. You're going to produce this in Wisconsin out of necessity for the story and what inspired it and everything. So from a practical standpoint, when you know you're going to do that, that moment of, okay, so what's the first step? What do we got to do now?
Well, so I suppose we should start out saying that we're basically a 2-person crew for a feature film.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Not suggest that at all.
Yeah.
One thing we had in Door County, which, I mean, obviously she wrote it for that area, but we have a really great network of friends, and you're talking about putting all your buddies in the film. Everyone in our movie we knew them before, almost. And everyone was living there except for Steve Kaler, who came up from Milwaukee. But I've known him. I did Guys on Ice with him here 12 years ago in Madison, so I've known him forever. So, we had that network, and then once we got the word out to business owners and so forth that we'd love to come in and shoot a scene like Northern Grill or whatever, they're like, yeah, sure, come on in. We're closed that day, and we live in South Pasadena. There's a lot of shooting going on there, bigger budget things. And if you walked into a business there, they'd be like, sure, hand us a check for $1,000 and you can have our place. So it's a big difference. And just, I think the community just really, they got excited about it and got behind it, and they knew everyone in it, and so that was really cool. I mean, you can't beat that kind of support just from the people in the community. Yeah.
And how about production resources for you guys? Did you guys own your own gear? Did you rent gear? How did you come into?
We rented gear. What company?
Yeah, we use ATS Rentals in Chicago.
Excellent.
Yeah, we've used them for all of our films, and then I actually brought stuff from LA to some audio gear, and had a few people. We've got a buddy, Tim Erskine, who lives in Door County, and he's making movies too. And he had like a really nice boom mic he lent us for a while when our mic died.
Yeah, I got a weird buzz, so we were like, Tim, save us.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we rented stuff, and then we had like I said, just great support from people up there. Yeah.
So it sounds like everyone up here is just swimming in money for their productions. They just had money, and they're like, let's spend it somehow. Let's make a movie. How did that happen? I mean, like because that's also something you guys are all talking about: pulling the resources you have around you, getting your friends together, using production resources you already have, or from the school, or anything like that. How did you guys make this happen from a financial standpoint? I mean, starting down there and coming back this way, I guess.
We ran 2 different Indiegogo campaigns. So if you're familiar with Kickstarter, it's another version of that. We ran one 2 years ago, exactly 2 years ago, and then we ran another one to help finish it in this last fall. So it was Indiegogo. It was a lot of like, hey, Door County on Facebook, can you help us? and then the greater internet just getting interested in what we were doing a lot of like writing blogs and Twitter, which I had to learn how to do because I'm not a social media person. Now I am, but it was just a lot of getting the word out because we didn't have the money. And even then it was, we just, we're beginning filmmakers, so we didn't have like, a ton of former films that we'd made. So it was mostly just like, here's the story we want to tell. We love Door County. We want to show it off beautifully. We have great actors, but it was a lot of like selling ourselves on the internet for money.
Well, and it sounds like there's a little bit of a benefit you guys got as well of shooting in a place that maybe isn't being filmed all the time, in the sense that people were excited about it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, oh, another one of these, right?
Oh, yeah, no. There have been a couple, but
a
couple Door County movies.
Helped
but
a lot.
Yeah, fantastic. Emir, how did you handle the finances to make this film that you ended up doing?
My wife paid.
I'm gonna make a note of that.
She's just there, producer.
That's right.
So, actually, I think it was the production cost was just the plane ticket, I can say, because I check out the equipment from the school, and when I went to Turkey, I had family house there, so I didn't pay anything there. So I was lucky about that. It was one of the cheapest film I have ever produced, I can say.
And it was like pretty much you're the crew one on this, right?
Oh yeah. I always film and edit and direct my films.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. And James, tell me how did you manage to get this pulled off financially?
A lot of gifts, I guess. So, like Emir, I got all the equipment from the school, and I shot my film on 16 millimeters, and all the film stock was given to me because they had it left over from the days when they used to, they don't use it anymore teaching. So they had all this just sitting down in the freezer. So I used it, used it all up, and basically the only other finances came sort of just like craft service and beer I was trying to provide to my actors. And that came from sort of a scholarship I won through the school, basically, but it was only, $1,500 or something like that. So it was like, I don't know, it's pretty cheap.
Okay. And then finally, Eric, how did you pull this off?
Well, this was one in particular where I didn't really have to rely on anybody else's like charity or like goodwill to ask for help, because this was just one that I did once again. I think I kind of answered just a little bit in my free time when we were off doing other events, and I guess there wasn't any really like direct like budget other than I bought a couple of boxes of little like cocktail umbrellas, and so probably like $10 like directly, but I had the gear, and so I would just kind of tote it around, and so other than the umbrellas, the expenses were always like covered on the other end.
Yeah.
So that was my only real out of pocket.
Yeah. So I imagine these films are not anyone's primary source of income up here for this. I'm curious how because that's another aspect of living as an independent filmmaker and living as a filmmaker in Wisconsin. I'm curious, you talked a little bit about that you work in the production industry. Could you give us a little bit more of a picture of what your day-to-day life is, how what your job is in the production industry?
Okay, so I work as a freelancer, and I've been doing it since I graduated. I'm a UW alum, and so I kind of started off doing a lot of the PA work, gripping, whatnot, and I always worked on the camera end of things too. I used to work at City Cable 12 here in like town, and then when I got into school, I started working at WHA, like public television. I worked through there my whole undergraduate, and I started doing some freelancing all throughout that time, and you just kind of start to get more contacts that you start to build up, and so I've been in it for 20 odd years, and so I mostly work as a cinematographer and a gaffer, and I've owned a grip and lighting business, trying to move away from that as I get older, not to have to lug such heavy stuff. So I'm kind of trying to just do more of my own projects, and although most of them don't really have much of a commercial appeal, I have had one project that's made a little bit of money, which is nice, but it's nothing that you could ever rely on for any kind of income, at least from where I am. So I still do rely on my freelance work for an income, and I'm also married, and I also rely on the insurance of my wife. So, yeah, it's not completely like financially viable for me to at this point like drop everything and just make my films. So I kind of work on them when I've got the time, and I've got some longer projects and I've got some shorter ones, and I do hope to just ideally, if I had my druthers, I would just be directing and writing feature length stuff, but you do what you can, right? So, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And James, what's your day-to-day life when you're not making films?
Yeah, so I just have a day job basically at the university. That's I guess tangentially related to film production. So I'm like a communications person, so photography, videography for the Wisconsin Energy Institute. But I mean, I've only been doing that for about a year now. And when I graduated college, I guess you'll hear from other people, it kind of seemed to me that there was 3 routes you could go. You could work in the industry and try to pay the bills that way. You could go back to school, grad school, try to make your films, or you could just do something else and then try to make your films when you had time. So I guess I went with number 3. And I'm hoping to make more movies, but we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of fresh out the gate, so.
No, those 3 avenues, though, that's a really interesting way of putting it, because I agree that seems to be the path, and everyone has like different, whichever path you take seems to fit whatever your immediate resources are and what you think you should do. Sure. Emir, you are teaching at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Give me a little bit more of a picture of that. What's your day-to-day
I teach there. I also teach at Lake Forest College in Illinois. So I like to teach because it helps me to be in a creative atmosphere. Yeah. Like I learn from the students, I learn from my colleagues, and that's very helpful. Yeah. I also have like small production company and some connections that every once in a while a job comes and I do it.
That's fantastic. Excellent. And you guys down at the back there, you're living in Los Angeles, obviously, so it's a little bit of a different thing maybe, but...
Yes, we live in LA, but we do not work in the film industry yet. I want to. So I have a lot of day jobs. I am an English tutor. I am a personal assistant to like 3 different people. What else do I do? I don't know. I do a lot of different jobs. Yeah, it's just a lot of day jobs. I moved out there hoping to like do acting, which I of course still want to do, but it's basically like we moved out to LA and then we realized we had to make this movie. So we ended up just coming back to Wisconsin a lot. Yeah. So it's kind of like we're still new to LA, but yeah, you've got some day jobs.
I fly little airplanes around.
That sounds like fun.
I teach people how to fly airplanes, so that's my day job.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's excellent. Yeah,
it's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's kind of funny the Wisconsin pulling you back in after you leave. It seems to be somewhat of a common story. We did a similar thing with our film that we did in 2012. I was living in Austin actually, and then right after we moved to Austin, actually we have to come back to Wisconsin and film this thing now, and it becomes a little more complicated because you're not living there anymore, but you make it happen, right? What's the I guess what's any challenges, unique challenges that come from filming in Wisconsin that you guys, or not necessarily filming in Wisconsin for you, but production in Wisconsin or anything like that? What's any unique challenges that maybe you wouldn't, or unique benefits to being in Wisconsin filming that you wouldn't have maybe if you were elsewhere? And anybody who has a thought, feel free.
Well, one thing that comes to mind immediately is the benefits are we didn't have to pay to shoot anywhere, but one of the issues is we filmed at 2 open bars. So you can imagine sound was pretty interesting. That was interesting. Oh, and one night, so in our movie at one point there's a scene where my character is crying and really upset, and we were filming at an open bar, and we thought it would be a quiet night because the night before had been like a tractor ride night when they were drinking. I don't know. So we thought it would be a quiet night, but then it actually ended up being volleyball night.
It was volleyball night.
So everyone was there, and they knew our whole cast. That they kept coming up to our cast and be like, "What are you guys doing?" Oh my God, it was awful. So we came back later.
The pros and cons of Wisconsin nice, right? Yeah. Yes, exactly. What is this? Oh my gosh. Yes. Any other thoughts from the experience?
I was just gonna say that I think it's. I mean, I guess I don't have too much authority to talk, but it seems like. There's resources in the people and stuff like that, and I think you can make some personal movies in Wisconsin because it's just not often filmed. You don't see it in Hollywood a whole lot, So it's like a particular sort of untapped resource. But the flip side of that coin, I guess, is that it's not like a very big market. So I mean, I don't know. It's you kind of got to scrap to get your projects out there.
I'm kind of curious how you guys. This is a little bit similar to talking about the day jobs thing. But I'm curious how you guys, as independent filmmakers, find the time to work on your work, because that's always the hardest resource, right? I mean, it is. Where do you find the time to actually work on this stuff? I don't know if you have any thoughts immediately, but
well, I've got 2 younger kids, and I'm not really. I have a very strange schedule anyway, but I get up at almost 3:30ish every morning, so I've got a couple hours just before everybody else gets up. If I need to work on a cut or like some music, I'll try to squeeze it in there, or late at night. I guess whenever you can find the time. There's really no magic formula for my view of it. Just whenever I can make it happen.
Yeah. Anyone else's thoughts? Yeah.
I'm still in the process of figuring that out too. I think I haven't made a film outside of school, so I go home and write after work, but it's yet to be determined, I guess.
I mostly work on summertime. I don't teach in summer, so the summer is my most creative time. I film and I start to edit. And also I have a 2-year-old son too. Mostly after he goes to bed, like 9, 10 p.m. to midnight, I edit or whatever I need to do.
That's perfect. I wouldn't have even thought about the summer thing. That's that's great. That's awesome. How about you guys at the back? I mean, what did you in writing? I guess maybe this would be more of a writing, like during the writing process or anything. I don't know.
Well, the writing process was just You know, it's funny. You would think it would take more time, but usually it was only about, when I wrote the script, it was only like half an hour in the morning, just when I could squeeze it in before work. Sometimes like an hour. But for the rest of film, like we edited it. We really basically put this thing together on our own time. I mean, we didn't sleep much during part of, finishing this up. I think, we had some nights where we were sleeping like 2 hours a night. I wouldn't recommend that because you go kind of insane. But, a part of the sacrifices, especially with finishing this movie, I mean, it's a feature film and we're two people. So it's just a lot of like giving up work, which pays you money. So we lived really cheaply, really, really cheaply while making this.
Yeah. I mean, that aspect of doing independent work for sure. I mean, it's like that self-driven thing that's like hard to keep going all the time, and it's very interesting. Any questions at all from the crowd here? Yes, please. And I'll just repeat the question real quick for YouTube. She was asking, you said your film was a labor of love. What's the path for next step to kind of get it beyond the Wisconsin Film Festival and forward?
Well, we're figuring that out right now, basically. We're very new to this. So, I mean, we're submitting to more festivals. We really wanted to bring it to Wisconsin first because this is our community. We have a lot of actors coming tonight. But
We just wanted to get seen. And it was... I think for this one, it's not necessarily an ambition to sell it for a lot of money or whatever. If people watch it and say, hey, this person has potential to do something, then maybe for the next, we can start to go a little bit bigger in budget and do bigger things for the next. I mean, we've got, 2 or 3 planned.
Yeah, we want to make a lot more.
Yeah. So that's kind of our hope, just to get it out and get it seen as much as possible at this point.
Anyone else? Sure. Same question for other people on the panel, and starting with James.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's a new game to play, I guess. It's not a fun game to play. You gotta it takes a lot of it's a full-time job for a lot of people. But I don't know about my movie, what the path for it is. It's fun to be in the festival, and that's like a huge payoff. Because like I said, I made it. It was a student project, but I guess it wasn't necessarily like too much of it wasn't for a class, I guess. So it was a little more independently minded. But I guess I just never really fathomed that it would have like a broad audience. So I think I'll take any showing I can get. Really, it's how I feel about it. And as for the future, I think it's just you keep doing it. It's basically similar to exactly what they said. As the projects come into your head and you write them, just keep trying to make them on another tier.
Cool. Anyone else? Yeah. Good.
I want to follow up on one thing about the festival. Festivals seem like a pretty obvious marketing strategy for these independent films, and there's going to be lots and lots of festivals, and obviously you can't enter all of them, and you sort of pick and choose. And I'm just kind of wondering about the economics and the finances and the logistics of getting into festivals and what kind of process that is.
So he's asking about the practicalities. Yeah, the economics. Yeah, the economics and the practicalities of entering film festivals, and obviously can't enter all of them. So how do you actually handle
I'd like to comment if that's all right, because I just that is always a concern. I mean, with this film that I've got in here, there was no commercial aspirations. I just made it because I wanted to, and so as I also mentioned, I have very little money actually into it. So from my perspective, I'm not going to get and it's not all dollars and cents, but in a certain way, I'm I'm not gonna put a lot of money into like promoting a thing that I'm not gonna get a lot of return of. Of course, I want people to watch it, and it's already online and on my YouTube channel, blah blah blah. But I want audiences to actually watch it. It just so happened that the other day I had gotten a waiver code to enter another festival, and I'm not sure how that person contacted me, but it was pretty cool because I just recently signed up to this new service, much like Without a Box, which is a festival service which I was already a part of, but this other one, Film
Freeway.
Thank you. I just went on it and I looked at all the festivals that were free to enter, and I was going for the low budget approach. I went to, and you can select for all the parameters, the ones that will accept at least in my case animation, shorts, and I went down and I moved the slider down to free, and you can already have an online screener. And if you have a low budget thing, there are a lot of low budget ways to. And I just went through and I entered 80 of them just because it click, enter, and it doesn't. And for a lot of them, it doesn't cost anything. So there's a lot of ways to get your stuff out there. And I may not get into any of them, but it didn't hurt because I don't have to put any more of an investment into it, other than a couple more an hour of my time.
Are you able to enter most of these festivals online, electronically?
Yes, there are so many festivals, thousands of them that you can enter online, and a lot of them have entrance fees. Yep, they just have a digital online screener, and they have a digital press kit that they just all download. So there's no years ago it was all postage, mailing these things. You had to make your copies, a physical entry for everybody. This is you just enter it once, hit a button, and you have a lot more festivals at least looking at your stuff. And who knows where it goes from there? But at least you have that opportunity.
Anyone else?
I would like to
sorry,
say something about it. Yeah, I think this is a subject that it really kind of makes me mad. I will say that because you're submitting film, you're a festival. I'm not talking about Wisconsin Festival. It is accepted. They don't pay money to you when they screen most of the time. What you get is the pleasure that people are watching your money, your film, not your money. You are saving your money there. So, I made my first festival film, I will say, 2004. It was in my country. In this time, at least, I don't know how it was in the United States, you are not paying money for submissions. And when they screened your film in the festivals, they were paying money. But right now, you're spending hundreds and hundreds dollars for submission. And if it is accepted, 7, 8, 10 festivals, you're lucky. At least for my perspective, and you don't get nothing. When you ask question about the production budget, I think this is the most money I spent for.
Yeah, it seems like the biggest money drains a lot of times seem to be before shooting and after shooting a lot of times with independent work.
And actually, there are a lot of kind of fake festivals around too right now. You should really be careful about what you're choosing. And as our friends mentioned about festivals like Film Freeway, Without a Box, there are many festivals there. They might be not real. For example, my previous film accepted a festival in Brazil. It says something international film festival. It sounds great, you are checking it, they didn't even publish website for 2016 film festival. They charge money for Portuguese subtitle. They didn't even send you the subtitle text to you. So something I'm disappointed about that process.
Any other thoughts on that one? Yep. Anyone else up here? Yeah, yes, sir.
So I'd like to know who your writing and directing influences are, and were you able to integrate those influences into your films,
So the question was, what's your influence writing and directing for the film? How did that integrate into the production that you specifically have a film here at festival? And then I guess what separates what you did there from kind of the era of democratized film where anybody could pick up a phone and shoot something?
I'll start, I guess. Oh man, that's a lot. Well, we're big fans of the Duplass brothers. If you guys know, like the Puffy Chair. I don't know.
All of their TV shows now on HBO.
Togetherness.
Yeah.
Cyrus, Jeff, who lives at home.
Rick Linklater is a big.
Richard Linklater's we're a big fans
one for us.
of Linklater. Which you might be able to tell when you see our movie.
If you know Slacker, you'll definitely be able to see a little bit of that in June Falling Down.
So, wait, what are we talking about?
So I mean, like, what's your outside of those influences? How did you see them kind of attached to the production you're working on?
Yeah, well, a big thing with the Duplass brothers is they made the Puffy Chair for $15,000. That was in like 2006, I think. And it's just basically like, whatever you can do to make your movie, with as little money as possible. They're big improvisers. We have some improvisation in this, but mostly it's a script just because I think it'd be terrifying to improvise a movie. Maybe we'll do that someday. But yeah, we're just really inspired by filmmakers who started out just going like, we don't have a lot of money, we don't have access to a ton of crew, but we want to make this movie, so we're going to do it. And that's what Richard Linklater did with Slacker.
Lena Dunham did that too.
Yeah, Lena Dunham, not with Tiny Furniture, but with one before that, where she went to South by Southwest. But I really admire people who are just like, we don't have the money, we're just going to do it, we're going to go after it. And, with June Falling Down, we had a really honest, for me, it was a very honest personal story about, losing a father to cancer. And I was like, I have to tell this story or I'm going to like die, basically. Like, I had to do it. So I just went after it and I feel really lucky that I've had some great mentors from the internet, from afar, who I've seen who have gone after this in the same way. So I just did it.
And the technology too. I think when we saw Tiny Furniture and that they shot that on a 7D, I was like, we can rent a 7D for a couple $100. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And we did. And then moved up to the 5D for June. So it's like with all the great technology that's come along in the last 10 years with these cameras and everything, it's really opened it up. So, and then Sean Baker just did the film with
Tangerine.
the iPhone. So it's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. What were some of your influences?
Filmmaker-wise? Well, I really like this 1960s direct cinema movement in America, like Frederick Wiseman, Albert Meslis. This kind of filmmakers are my inspiration, I would say, their styles. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and especially I make this type observational documentaries. So they were my inspirations, I can say.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. This line of questioning is always kind of hard to answer because I think when you're writing your story, you're not like, I don't think, maybe some people do, but I don't sit down and think about, what do I want the audience to see in this film in terms of films made in the past. It's just kind of like a backwards way of thinking about it to me. So I think it's more about you have the styles and stuff that you just kind of intrinsically gravitate to, and then you kind of just want to make a movie that people will respond to. And in my case, it's a comedy. So as long as there weren't influences so much as there's just moments on set where you inspire each other with a joke or something like that, and then that gets enveloped into the movie. So.
And yourself, sir.
So influences, I don't really even know where to begin because I don't really. I grew up kind of in late 70s, early 80s, so probably anybody that was really big then. I was really, as a kid, really into Spielberg, and anybody that had a really strong visual sense, really knows how to move a camera around, motivated, and I guess these days, a lot of stuff by the Coens, Although this is not really reflective of any of those particular like dramas, because it's a little animated thing. But I guess for the animation end of it, I really like some animators that I follow mostly on the internet. There's a gentleman, I believe it's a man, but he just it goes by the name of Blue, BLU, and I think from Brazil. Honestly, I don't even really know. It's just all very anonymous. And an animator by the name of Pez, and one a Patrick Boivin. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name, but a Canadian. And those guys all have very strong visual identities, and I kind of admire that. I don't know exactly how it like directly influenced, other than I like their work. Except for I did mention the animator Blue. One thing that this person does is they do street like graffiti art on walls, so giant murals, but they're animated. So, and just by the nature and the amount of labor that it happens outside on location, events all around still pass by in a time lapse. And I guess that was a strong influence, because that's kind of one of the elements that plays in my film. I've got these little umbrellas that look like they're opening like blossoms or mushrooms, which was animated, but it plays in a background of kind of a time-lapse landscape look. So that was a direct influence.
Yeah, I've seen some of that stuff. That stuff's crazy. I like that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
Do we have time for one or more, two more questions? Anyone? Okay, well, I'll just go. Yeah, go ahead. So the question was, if your films contain music, how did you handle that whole process? And I guess we could start down here and go back the other way.
Yes, mine has a original score that I just wrote and I did myself.
Yeah, that's the same for me. Mine is more this. There's not a score so much as there's just rock songs in it. And I play in a rock band, so I just kind of use the music that way.
No music. I don't like to use kind of additional music. If the music is part of the scene, it gets into film. Otherwise, I don't like to use the music in my films.
Well, we have a lot of music, and another thing we benefited from being up in Door County. I'm a professional musician as well as flying little airplanes, but that's how I got to Wisconsin, was doing theater work. So I've known a lot of musicians in Wisconsin through the years, and so we had a lot of great resources. We're kind of folk and bluegrass guys where I'm from, but we had Adam McIntosh, which is a buddy of ours from California. We just put one of his songs in. He's a Chicago, put a rock song in there, and we've got pretty big mix. But
yeah, one of our leads in the movie.
Count This Penny gave us a song.
Yeah, Count This Penny.
From Madison.
Yeah, from Madison, now in Tennessee. One of the leads in our movie is in a band called Lakeside Fire, and we've got 3 of their songs in the movie. Also, Chris wrote 2 different pieces that are like acoustic guitar, and those are in the movie. We've got like bluegrass musicians from Door County, with some kind of like finger picking music. I mean, it's all people that we know personally, or they're a friend of a friend, and we wrote to them and we said, hey, we can't give you any money. If we make money, you can have some, but otherwise, we put this movie together, and man, people were just excited to have their music in a movie.
We have people performing in the movie too, because we have a wedding reception scene. So I've known these guys called Big Mouth in Door County for 20 years, and they're a great blues R&B band. So we put them in there, and then Katie Dahl, who's a folk singer, I've known her for a long time too. So she's in there singing. So we've got some live music in the film, and then just other recordings from people who let us use it. So it's great.
The gentleman in the back, you had a question earlier? Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, so the question was, from concept to completion, for each of these films, how long was the process to actually get this thing in the canon to where it is we're seeing it now? And then we can start down there, I suppose.
Well, I'm taking notes tonight, so
No.
it's not done. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I probably will, but
Okay. This started out actually as a short story I wrote in college in 2010, I think. It was called, I don't know why I'm telling you, it's called Witch A Woman. Like the Eagles song, which is really stupid.
I wouldn't say that at any more interviews.
I shouldn't say it again. It's being recorded right now. Yeah, so it was like a short story I wrote, kind of similar to the movie we have now, which is a young woman. It's actually just taking place at a house party. She's grieving for her dad, and that scene ended up being in the movie. When I wrote the story, I was like, this would be much better as a movie. And then I worked on the script for years, and
I guess 6 years, if you count tonight
Kinda.
being done.
more like 3. I really,
I guess 3.
But
Since you
it
wrote the
was
script.
percolating for a very long time.
So if you include all that concept time, yeah, you're at 6 years. Yeah, you get there. Emir, what about you? How long from concept to completion?
Okay, so I'm making a trilogy actually, kind of about my mom and my family. So the first film, the idea, I would say 2009. The first film I made 2012, and this is the second film of that trilogy. I would say 2016. So I would say it is 6 years.
6 years.
Bad math. 7 years, I guess.
So I started writing my movie not this past winter, but the winter before, and then it was completed for the spring. But then I did some cutting at the end of it. So really, it was basically like from like December 2014 to like sort of September 2015, however many months that is. But the film's only like 8. I don't know if you asked that too. It's like 19 minutes long. So I guess that's roughly.
Still, it's 2 years-ish, right? Somewhere there.
Not quite. So less than a year.
Less than a year.
Yeah.
Okay, less than a year. Gotcha. Cool.
Mine is called Forest Products. It's about a minute and a quarter long or so. I started to shoot probably about a year ago. It was like probably early April of last year, and shot for maybe 3 days a month at a 3-hour burst at a time for a number of months because I wanted to like transition all the seasons and whatnot. And I think the last things that I shot was probably, or the last like scene that I shot was the last week in November, I believe, and I already had most of my edit as I went along, and I think I got it done just in time for the deadline for this festival, which I think was on the 1st of December, maybe. I don't quite remember, but I think I got it done just in time for that. So like 8-ish like months of production. The conception was probably we just happened to have a box of old umbrellas where I was just kind of playing with it for probably about a year earlier. So maybe a year earlier just started having some of the seeds, and actually got around to it in April of last year, I guess.
Yeah.
So
that right there, it would seem, is probably the difference, between the democratized, everyone has a phone camera kind of going out and shooting something. It's that the long time and dedication and work that goes into each of these projects is the separating juice. Any other questions? Yes. And so the question was, is there any advice for current students studying film, and just young students in general, anything like that, trying to get into film, I suppose? And that's for anybody.
I don't know if I'm qualified to give advice.
You got to film in the festival, man.
Yeah, I guess. I just kind of stumbled, and I didn't know that I wanted to do filmmaking until halfway through college, so I was really approaching it from like a down-to-earth sort of newbie perspective. And then as I went along, I just kept liking the classes more and then wanting to do my own projects and then just trying to think about what's feasible. and then have fun doing it, and actually, do it, because I think a lot of times you have ideas and stuff, but you actually have to hold your feet to the fire to get it done. So that's important.
I just wanted to add too. I think you also brought up where does that kind of separate the iPhone crowd or whatever. I don't think that doesn't have to. Then I mean, if you want to make a film, you'll do it on an iPhone. You'll do it on an old camera. You'll do it on whatever that you have. It's not new advice, but if you wanna make it, there's 100 different ways that you're able to. You just gotta scale it for what you're able to do and do the best thing that you're able to with what you've got.
I would say, I think you should really decide that if you really want to do this, because as you see that we are not really making money from that, so it's hard, and 70%, 80% of the students unfortunately cannot find job related with their own area, so they need to go different paths, they need to take different paths. So if you really dedicate yourself, if you really want to do this, you can do this. This is the thing I can say that,
Yeah. Any thoughts over there? Nah?
We didn't go to film school, so
No, that's all right.
This was film school.
This was our film school. Yeah.
But that's a lesson in itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really funny with film for me because I really resisted doing it. I was a theater major. I made a short film when I was 17, and I really loved it. But then I decided I wanted to be an actor, and then I decided I wanted to be a writer, and I just kept wanting to make movies, and I just kind of couldn't help it. I don't feel like I have a choice in the matter, sort of. I kind of wish I didn't want to make movies because it's so hard. But, it's... I think what really helps, especially something that's such a marathon, especially a feature, it is such a marathon. It's been so many years, so many hours, just honestly kind of killing ourselves to make it. But it really helps to have a story that you really want to tell. And that, it really helped that we had great actors where I loved looking at the footage. Everyone is so magical and so spontaneous, and we just all clicked really well. That really helped us get through how hard it was. But yeah, I mean, it really is. The resources are out there to make it. I mean, you just kind of have to go for it. And then one nice thing is once you get going and you have a community around you, you kind of have to finish it. Especially if you're talking about it online a lot.
Right.
And Indiegogo.
Yeah, Indiegogo.
We can't just take that money and go to Hawaii. I mean, we got.
No, we got to make a movie.
So, yeah, we had to come up with something. So.
I actually relate a lot to what you said about it helps to have a story that you want to tell. I think that's the key thing in many ways, at least it was for me as well, that if you could find that subject that you're just as passionate about as the making of it, then you won't have this uneven thing where it's really technically proficient, but kind of you don't really know what the content is, But if you find that other thing, what it's about, that drives you the whole way. Yeah.
I feel like it's helpful to just know that you learn something each time too.
Yeah.
So if you always are just diving into a project, you're going to come away with something new.
Yeah. Any other questions? Do we have time for one more or two more? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions here at all? Yes. So the question was, there's been a lot of support around all these productions up here, but I'm sure that everyone's encountered some people or some forces not being as helpful. How have you encountered those, and how have you overcome them? Even if they're not people or forces, just things, obstacles standing in your way, preventing you from...
There was one drunk guy at the bar. He wouldn't leave.
This one night.
Oh my God, it was awful.
We kept saying, "You're in our shot."
Yeah, he was in our shot. He was like, "What?"
What do you mean?
That was rough. I mean, honestly, sometimes it felt like nature was going against us or life just because just the amount of work it took to get it done, the amount of time. But, I mean, I don't know. You could also say that nature was working with us. Like
We were
I mean,
very lucky with weather and everything. actually.
Yeah, we found like 4-leaf. This is stupid. Whatever. I'll tell it. We found like 4-leaf clovers like right before shooting it and right afterwards. It was like it was surrounded by magic.
It's a good
I don't-
sign.
It was a good sign. That drunk guy was not, but otherwise people were great.
Yeah, I would just add to that, whether it's an obstructionist like person, either kind of like a rubbernecker in a scene, or horrible weather, or your camera's not like working. The best thing, you can have it all planned out. I like to be very meticulously all planned out because it's just that's the way things just go easier. But that doesn't always happen that way. So you always got to be able to kind of flow like water. Look for the alternate, and just be open. And if you're around a lot of people that you're on a crew with, you just got to be open for other ideas too, because you can get stuck in a rut and you might not see a way around a problem. But if you are working with a really good crew and people that you trust, maybe another person might have something that they can offer and like toss in there. So I would say either just be stubborn and drive through it, or you can just listen and you might find an easier way too. So I guess you can go either way.
How about you guys in the middle? Any obstacles for you guys? Or?
I didn't have any obstacles other than the kind of like pain in the neck of having to ship film to LA to get it developed, which is, yeah, it's kind of like it leaves you in, you don't, there's no such thing as editing, right? The couple days after you've shot it. Yeah, I had to wait till basically before the film was, a couple weeks before the film was supposed to premiere for school, before I got everything in telecine, in format where we could start editing. So that was like a huge obstacle. But I think in general, anyone will say, as they've said, that filmmaking is like less. Sometimes it feels like it's less about telling a story and more just about like clearing the hurdles that are presented. It's all about problem solving, I guess.
Well, I can say that obstacles, and when you develop when you develop your idea, kind of encounter with obstacles, and also during the production process too. Not this project, but in general, I am talking. The first one is the idea-wise. So when you share your opinions with other people, you expect some kind of encouragement. You expect that from your friends. It can be your family. It can be your colleague. Sometimes you don't get that. They are not excited about that project as much as you are, and that might be sometimes for me kind of discouraging. So because of that, I'm not telling anyone what I am doing. So during the production process, when filming in public, it might be, I make documentaries as I told. The last film, not this one, I was mostly with my mom, and my family. It wasn't a problem. But 2015, I made a documentary about farm auctions in Wisconsin. So I was filming a specific subject, but I had some unpleasant situations with other people, that even though I wasn't filming them. So, yeah.
Observational documentary for sure. It has some unique obstacles you run into.
Yeah, it's legal. You can film a spot, kind of. I don't know. The cop comes and say, "Don't film here." But I mean, that's my legal right. I can film here. Things are happening in that way in the production process.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Question is, what's your favorite editing system?
Software-wise? Yes. Oh, okay. I was using Final Cut Pro 7 until last year, but Final Cut Pro kind of switched to Final Cut Pro X and totally changed its interface. So I'm not very happy about that, even though it has some positive aspects. I switched to Adobe Premiere, so I edit this film, my recent film, Adobe Premiere Pro. So that's what it is.
Okay. I guess my question to that is whatever the editor prefers to use. But if I were to edit, I'd probably say Adobe Premiere too, just because that's the only thing I really learned on. There's a lot of people similar to Emir, I've noticed, that were kind of like fugitives from the Final Cut Pro days. So I think they've migrated to Adobe, but that's all I've ever known.
I also use Final Cut. I used to use the older version, number 7, and then when it went to X, I immediately went to that, and I've been happily using it for a number of years. So I'll stick up for them.
To your guns.
Yeah, we use Final Cut Pro X too. And part of, we didn't have the obstacle with them updating it because, the last time I used it was 13 years ago when I was a teenager, and then I started using it again like 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know. So I didn't have a problem with it. I like it. Someone else can edit my movie next time.
That's their favorite editing system. Someone else. Go ahead, sir.
You guys are small operations and such. Who do you look to for feedback and to validate the way you've done the edits or the shots or things like that?
And the question was, where do you look for feedback, for notes, for encouragement as you're working on the writing, the production, the edits? Anyone? Yeah.
It's very easy. My wife, so she's here because I think she's a very successful filmmaker too, and I really trust her. And yeah, I will say that.
When you got to keep the financier happy.
Huh?
You got to keep the financier happy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
right.
Well, my sounding board for a lot of this has been Chris, especially with me. I was acting, and Chris was there to tell me if things were going okay according to what I wanted the scene to be. But with editing, I have a really good friend who's a filmmaker named Irwin. She lives in Baltimore, and I just would send her things and ask her about it, and she has exceptional taste, and it's really good to have like a friend who has great taste but is also very critical. But nice and supportive. That's very important.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think this is like the best question because I think it's really important to like identify those people. When I was making my movie, I was lucky because all my friends were in the film department, and they were basically my people that I really respected or thought were better filmmakers than me. So getting their input from the script to the final cut is always invaluable. But I think it's really important to find those people that can give you the criticism.
Any thoughts for you?
I guess it would just be kind of to reiterate what's already been said. When I get to that point, I don't usually like to get other people involved early on. If it's my own stuff, I like to kind of get it into a good shape where I feel more comfortable with it, and then I'll open it up to either my wife, and I trust her, and some other friends who are pretty savvy, and I'll take back at that point. But I certainly like to hold off until I get it into an area where I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
So I kind of trust my gut early on, and then when I need another set of eyes, then I'll ask around at that point.
So what happens if you don't wait? What happens if you don't wait till it's in that place and it's still fragile and you ask for an opinion too early?
I don't just because I just don't like to put it out there until I've kind of mulled over a lot of the possibilities that I'm going to come up with first. I'm not sure why. It's just I'm stubborn and.
So you haven't had that experience. You haven't been burned in that experience yet, or is that a...
No, I haven't been burned. It's just at a certain point you just kind of, this is the way that I want it to end. It might not be the best ending, but it's the one I'm either married to for some reason that I just am hung up on. I just want to do it that way. It might not be the best, but
live with it long enough.
Right. No, and that's and I think you also mentioned the length of the projects. Yeah. I'm also doing a lot of these over months and months at a time, so I'm watching these constantly, and you kind of chip away at it, and you shape it over a longer period, and you're a lot more intimate with what you're handing out there to others, and so you can accept the criticism a little bit easier once you've exhausted all your own possibilities, I guess. I'm not sure how else to phrase it, but...
You want to be allowed to kill your darlings in your private
life. Right.
Just like, right. I know I'm going to have to let this go, but I don't want to just yet.
Yep, exactly, right.
Any other...
Yeah, I would like to add something. I think it's very important to find the right person because you don't always want to hear the nice things. You should be...
honest things.
Yeah, honest things. Like sometimes you show your friends, oh, it's so amazing. Like, I don't know about that. You know, so good, so good. I loved it a lot. Like, you know, it doesn't feel right though. You know, so you should really find a person who's gonna give you honest feedback, as Eric mentioned, like the bad things, the good things. That both. This should be a combination of both, I guess.
Yeah. You don't always want that unconditional love at all. I mean, when you're really trying to work on a project that you know you've invested that much effort in.
Yeah. Do you guys? I assume you've all been in position the other side of that table, giving notes. Like, is there a most productive way that you like to give notes in the way you like to receive them, or how? Any thoughts on that at all?
I think it depends on the phase that the project's in, but that's like my favorite part of filmmaking is giving and receiving notes, because I think that's like how you get the film into a place where it's, you know, better. And I think depending on what part of the phase it's in, like if it's in the script phase, I think just reading through the script and just taking notes on the side is perfectly fine. But maybe even more fun is when it's in the editing phase, because then you can be like, oh, you know, what if you dug through the footage and found this shot from this angle, or is there a reaction shot there? That, you know, so that kind of stuff is more probably how the film gets done in the end via criticism, and at least in my experience. And it's also fun to be in that headspace with people. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, do you have thought? I'm sorry. If you have thought, go ahead. Okay. Go ahead. Maybe we can start over here, I guess, and work our way down. Or
You might have the best answer, Eric.
Well, I don't know about the best. It's just I love it here. I guess I wouldn't really want to live anyplace else. I already mentioned in a different answer that if I had my druthers, I would just be doing stuff in the narrative area, either like features or stuff, whether on my own or in collaboration with others. But I spend most of my time on commercials, a lot of commercials, regional, national spots, like documentaries and things like that. I just wish there was a bit more of an entertainment like community here, and that's not to say that there aren't a lot of people like trying. It's just that it's a smaller like community. But I would not want to live anywhere else. I'd be happy working other places, but this is where I call home. So I would hopefully rather like develop this area and really foster the people that either aspire to do stuff here or already are. I think, as we also mentioned, there's more and more resources here all the time, and with these new ways to distribute either via internet, or I know that Marcus here in Wisconsin does a great thing for independents to have a theatrical run of their like films, which is awesome. So I would like to just see more entertainment being made here for the enjoyment of everybody, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I don't really know too much about the film community of Wisconsin, but my world is more made up of the film community of the university in Madison, and I feel like there's a lot of really bright people there and people that are willing to help, especially I think people that work in the film department at Madison, the faculty and stuff are I think pretty encouraging. So that's basically my community right now. You have a better sense of the industry than I do, but it seems like it's similar to what Eric was saying.
I wish there will be a kind of Wisconsin Filmmakers like association or something, a kind of union or kind of a club. People come together, talk, and share their ideas, opinions. I don't know, something feel that you're not alone. This is the reason I like festivals. You come together with other people, like kind of on the same track. So kind of I will say kind of a group. Yeah. I would like to see.
Yeah, I really feel like, for us, we've just started scratching the surface of film in Wisconsin. It was mostly just the two of us, and we had. I have to say, there was really something to be said about having. We talked about we had a buddy, Tim Erskine, who had film equipment up in Door County, when our mics went bad. I mean, they're and you know, they're also a 2-person team, mostly he and his wife, and it was so helpful just to have people to relate to. There's just nothing like that, and you know, we want to make more movies in Wisconsin, so we want to meet other filmmakers in Wisconsin. So it's great that you guys are doing this.
Yeah, we're making that happen this weekend, so it's great. It's great to meet everybody.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I think that's all the time we have. So thank you so much to our panelists, and thank you so much
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.